This session is dedicated explicitly to sports, in particular boxing, in particular football, and I'm slightly starstruck and very much kind of honored that not just the morning speakers and the speakers afterwards, but also these speakers have managed to make it to Oxford, to talk about their experiences in two kind of slightly different, but also in many ways connected fields. First speaker, I'll introduce both speakers and then I'll hand over to the speakers to give their presentations. The first speaker is Alexander Krassyuk, who is a boxing promoter. Alex played an important, vital role in the unstoppable, I would say, rise of Alexander Usyk through the cruiserweight division, through the heavyweight division. He was undisputed, Usyk, in both of those divisions when he was working, or when Alex was working with him. And he was working as kind of a promoter and very much, in many ways, the public face of not just Alexander, but everything that Alexander was standing for, especially after 2022. Alex oversaw Usyk's victories in pretty much mega fights, probably the biggest heavyweight fights since the time of Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis. So he was there in Alexander's corner when he was fighting Tyson Fury, when he fought Anthony Joshua. So these are kind of, in many ways, kind of groundbreaking fights and really important, monumental events in recent Ukrainian cultural history, to say nothing of kind of boxing and sports. So Alex will be our first speaker, and our second speaker is my favorite, one of the best, most knowledgeable journalists, broadcasters, writers on European football, broadly speaking, who appears regularly weekly on many podcasts, both here in the UK and abroad, talking about European football, the ins and outs, the intricacies, the economies, the cultures behind different teams, different divisions, football divisions, and more importantly, or more kind of specifically and focused for today, Andy will be talking about his book We Play On, Shakhtar Donetsk's Fight for Ukraine, Football and Freedom, which is, I mentioned to Andy before that it was selected as one of the Telegraph Books of the Year a couple of years ago. And it's incredibly rich, incredibly well-researched, incredibly knowledgeable and sympathetic view to Shakhtar, everything Shakhtar stands for, but also Ukrainian football. And it's a story which starts well. Andy can talk about when the story starts about Shakhtar, but I think both of these speakers are going to be able to kind of speak to something which we haven't spoke about in any of our workshops, in the first 5 workshops yet, and that is this kind of idea of sports and cultural diplomacy through sports, but also kind of personal stories through individuals who've been in very much the thick of monumental events, individuals, and working in and around various sports groups. So without further ado, Alex, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. For those who don't know, my name is Alex Krassyuk, and I'm mostly known as the promoter of Alexander Usyk, the undisputed cruiserweight and heavyweight champion. Well, but this is just the tip of the iceberg, because I've been a boxing promoter for more than 20 years, and within this passage of time, we've done some good job. And yeah, so I promoted over 100 shows throughout the world, mostly in Ukraine. We were based in Ukraine, but it's like more, yeah, this is me and Alex. And the company that I was running for almost 18 years is called K2 Promotions, and I've got 2 partners in this company who you probably also should know, which is who is actually Vladimir and Vitaly Klitschko. So we started it back in 2008, and up to now, yeah, we have some success. That's how I can call it. So I promoted over 50 professional boxers from also all over the world, but mostly from former USSR. And yeah, most of them were successful, but we had only 4 world champions, which is not that much. But in our case, and I'll explain you further why, it might be considered some kind of success. But I was, the Lord actually granted me the privilege to be the promoter of of Alexander Usyk, who was, according to my understanding of reality, he was marked and kissed by the Lord himself to become who he is, because we can easily call him one of the luckiest and probably most hardworking athletes that we can see in the history of not just boxing but of all sports. He was the Olympic champion. Well, no, let's start it like this. He came to boxing when he was 15, which is a little bit which is too late for any fighter, because normally it should start from the age of 6 or 7. He came 15, which was too late, and within 2 years he became the champion of Ukraine, and he became the member of a national team. After that, he moved up and became the champion of Europe, the European champion. Then he became the amateur world champion. Afterwards, here in London, not here, but 1 hour away from here, he became the Olympic champion. And that's where our roads crossed first. And I would say that was the point where our collaboration started. So these are the champs that we had in Ukraine. Most of them were Ukrainians, only one. By the way, a strange fact for Ukrainian, I was the first promoter to promote a professional boxing show in Chechnya, in Grozny, back in 2009. That was the first ever professional boxing show performed there, and I was the promoter of the first ever Chechenian champion of the world. His name was Zaurbek Baysangurov. Yeah, so just a couple words about the industry, because it's very interesting to talk about the industry in the heart of its native land. The boxing was started as the not just sports, but as the activity, as the professional business activity. It started in the UK back in 18th century, somewhere in the middle of 18th century. And when I'm telling started, I mean there were posters, there were tickets, there were odds. People were putting money, spending money on boxing, and fighters were earning from performing boxing. There were no gloves, different rules, but as the kind of sports it appeared here in the UK. And but further, due to some liberal approach and liberal, let's call it liberal approach and less control, it appeared to be more as business-wise more expanded in United States. And most of the stars that we people who are not a part of boxing, we used to know, they came from United States. They were like Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali. So these are the icons of the boxing. But United Kingdom was always in the top, and some guys like Lennox Lewis, we all know. But still, up until now, the market of boxing is the biggest market of boxing is United States. So, a couple words about Ukraine. Within 30-something years after the collapse of Soviet Union, Ukraine had just 4 Olympic champions in boxing. Well, we all know them: Vladimir Klitschko, Alexander Usyk, Vasyl Lomachenko 2-time, and Alexander Khizhniak, the fresh made and the latest Olympic Games. And we had, during the history of Ukraine, we had just 12 world champions in professional boxing. So out of those 12, 6 were homemade. Means they were promoted by the local Ukrainian promoters, and they staged their fights in Ukraine. They were brought up in Ukraine, and 3 of those I promoted from the beginning of their career. So just to give you some insight of why Ukraine is part of world professional boxing elite, we need to get a little bit into the history, where Uzbek is a big expert about. Yeah, so Soviet heritage. The Soviet heritage of boxing, it's not just boxing. It's the Soviet heritage of sports, the discipline, the culture of children's sports, the so-called Soviet school of boxing, which is now well performed in the world, with Uzbekistan, with Kazakhstan, with Russia, with Ukraine, with other former Soviet Union republics, with Georgia, who have successful fighters. And yeah, the hard competition that was taking place inside of Soviet, and what happened afterwards was the how you call it, was something that was following after the strong impact of Soviet culture. And yeah, Brilliant Specialists is also the platform for building up successful athletes. But on the other hand, you have this strong potential of what we just spoken about. And on the other hand, we have like something that does not allow to develop. And this is also the heritage of Soviet Union, where the people were poor. It's the poverty, where the criminality was high after the collapse at the beginning and the middle of 90s, where the purchasing power of common people was extremely low, when the money was devaluated and yeah, so boxing and sports and entertainment was not even the third or fifth priority. That was somewhere in the end. And TV was not involved, so you didn't have money coming from commercials, there was actually no interest. And the worst thing, that there was no culture of consuming boxing, professional boxing, as the product. So when I came to boxing in 2005, we had to start from building up the culture, the market. There was no market, it did not exist. There was like several people who watched it on TV and tried to build it up somehow in the reality. But that was a very complicated assignment due to the lack of those very important small things. So a couple words about myself, how I came up into boxing. That's sometimes it sounds funny, but for me it doesn't sound that funny all the time. I was working in the advertising business, and yeah, so I had to split with my partners. So I had maybe 3 or 4 months doing nothing. I purchased my first apartment. I started to make some renovation inside it. After, let's say, probably two months of hard work, I looked at the result that I had in my apartment, and that was the point where I realized that everything should be handled by the professionals. So I had to hire some people who were well prepared in that field, and they made the proper renovation. So I was looking for a job. They invited me for the interview, also advertising business, because that was my background. And I came for the interview, and I saw some things that did not look like an advertising agency. There was a glove, the belt, the professional boxing belt, which I didn't realize at that time. And I was asking the secretary, she was sitting there, the assistant to the manager, and she was like very serious, typing something on the computer. I asked her, "Excuse me, could you please let me know what's the name of the company I'm now applying for?" She said, "Just wait your time and you will see." So, but please, it will be much better for me and for you and for everyone if I get a little bit concentrated. At least, can you give me the name? And she's telling me, yeah, so it's not a problem. It's called National Box Promotion. And I've been studying English since I was a kid, like 6. And for me, at that time, it was like, cardboards. I mean, cardboard boxes on the national level. What the hell am I doing here? Where am I? What's the connection with the gloves, with everything? And yeah, it was called box, like German style boxen, because like universal box promotion. So it had nothing to do with the boxes. It had to do with boxing as the professional sports. So yeah, that's how it started. And as I mentioned before, there was no market. We had to build it up. We invested money. We had no success unless 2008, the crucial time for Ukrainian boxing, where Klitschko brothers came from abroad and announced that they want actually to start professional boxing in Ukraine. And we, as National Box Promotion, we had two options. Option number one is to join our efforts and go together, because we had a good stable of fighters, we had the experience, we had everything, but we didn't have blood for our business. And option number two was to compete with those two guys who had everything. So smart decision was number one option, and yeah, that's what we did. In 2008, we united our efforts, and we created K2 East Promotions, and that is the point where it all started. Brothers came up with sponsors, with a TV deal, so we had everything in the pocket to launch the successful project. And here it comes. So, boom, boom, boom. 2012, here in London, I was running another business with my partners, which was we developed the software for betting companies, and we had a meeting, and somehow it coincided with the date of the finals in the Olympics. And I met a gentleman in the plane who was heading to the finals of the Olympics, and he told me that yeah, tomorrow or day after tomorrow they are taking place at the Excel Arena. And I couldn't miss that. That was like a sign from the Lord. I couldn't miss it. But you know, if you decide to visit the finals of the Olympics in boxing, and you did not book a ticket 5 years in advance, it means it's complicated to succeed, at least to get inside. So we came probably 30 minutes before the start. Of course, cash the box office, no tickets, nothing around, and of course the guys selling tickets around for three prices. At the end of the day, yeah, we had proper negotiations, like decent negotiations, because that was maybe 10 minutes to the start, and in 15 minutes the tickets would cost nothing, so their value was zero. So we had a good deal with them, and for me that was one more sign and one more surprise. When we get inside, we were 6 people, we get inside the arena, we walk, we find our seats, and suddenly I realize myself in the middle of Ukrainian team. So that's probably my compatriots sold it to the market, and some other compatriots purchased them. Yeah, so that was a blessing, because I was present at the final where Usyk became the Olympic champion, and he performed his dance, Kopak, the very famous Ukrainian national dance, which made him famous at that point. So that's how I first met Usyk. And after that, we spent some time negotiating. I brought him once to the training camp of Vladimir Klitschko to let him see how it's all happening, and he was delighted, and he was excited to see what he saw. And that was the time when he met his first professional trainer, James Ali Bashir, who was working in the camp. Yeah, and that's where the story started with Usyk. 2013, we signed the deal, and I committed in front of him. I said, listen, in 3 years, you will become the world champion in professionals. If not, you're free to go. So we signed it on a paper. We had it on a contract as a separate clause. And yeah, three weeks before the expiration of our contract, he became the world champion. By the way, it was in Poland versus the Polish fighter in cruiserweight. He became the world champion. After that, we moved to United States with HBO, and for me, one more very interesting point, how important is the charisma of the personality. So it was the fight, the main event was the farewell fight of Bernard Hopkins. He was almost 50 by that time, or 50 something. And he was the main event, and Usyk was the co-feature. So at the press conference, we had to introduce him just to the US public to see who he is. By that time, Usyk speak zero English. And as most fighters, sometimes fighters speak zero language at all. But but zero English is still a good rate. So he came to the stage. He had like 10 seconds, and he learned before. So we talked. I said, just go out and say, "I'm Alexander Usyk. See you Saturday night." So it's like from Borat movie. So Usyk is coming to the stage, and he said, "Hello, everybody, people. I'm Alexander Usyk. See you Saturday night." That's it. But people, we like had up to 100 media people. They were like watching, staring at him. Not because he said something important, but because he had this energy, the magnetism. And they were like following him when he was leaving the stage. And that was the point where I realized that it's not that important as charisma, because his magnetism and is working up until now. So yeah, after that he became the champion. After that we had one more important for Ukraine. We had the first ever triple header on HBO, where 3 Ukrainian fighters were heading the show. It was Vasyl Lomachenko, Alexander Gvozdyk, and Alexander Usyk, live on HBO, first time ever. And after that, HBO collapsed. Also a historic fact. Yeah. So we had to move, unfortunately. There was the first attempt to enter Saudi Arabia with the final of World Boxing Super Series, where Usyk became the cruiserweight champion. And we were unlucky somehow, because our first attempt did not succeed. We were not successful at that point because Usyk got injured, and there was only one slot in Saudi Arabia due to the hot weather. It was only in May, and as long as he got injured, we had to extend the date, and the date happened in July, and we had, unfortunately, to go to Moscow, and that was one of the biggest stress in my boxing career, to be a part of the event there in Moscow. But God was with us. Usyk became the undisputed champion. The undisputed champion in cruiserweight, and yeah, that's where the story continued. After that, we had close collaboration with Eddie Hearn, with my brother. By the way, we used to tell about this on media. We made a deal with him in 5 minutes on a small sheet of paper with a pencil. It was in Paris, in St. George, in Georges V Four Seasons Hotel. It's still written, and I keep it somewhere. I will put it on my wall in the new office. It's very small, and it gives just, I don't know, maybe 5 clauses, major points. And yeah, we gave this the screen of the picture of this small sheet of paper to our lawyers, and in 1 month we had the deal for 20 pages, which we signed, and we continued, and that's how Usyk came to Anthony Joshua. Then he defeated Joshua twice, then he defeated Tyson Fury twice, and yeah, and that's where he is now. And by the way, he defeated Dubois twice. In between, there was also a good point where we had to chase Tyson Fury, because Tyson was the biggest star and the biggest payday for any fighter, because he knew how to talk, and maybe it wasn't made on purpose, but he still performed very good, and people loved him. The biggest thing is that people had the incentive to put the hand in the pocket and to pay money for what he's talking about. of what he's doing in the ring. That was very important to catch Tyson, and we spent almost 1 year juggling in media with some jokes, with some sometimes it was harder, sometimes it was easier, but at the end of the day, it ended up with a fight. And very unexpectedly, Usyk defeated him once and then twice. But Tyson is still claiming he never lost, but because of the politics. But it is what it is. Fighters never admit the losses. So yeah, that's that's literally it. I tried to make the story short, but I'm sure if you have any questions, we could start a different discussion.